First kind of discovered metal itself through WWE, weirdly. I'm a massive wrestling nerd, and The Undertaker had a gimmick in the early 2000s where he was like a biker. He called himself the American Badass, and he had this theme music by a band called Limp Bizkit, and the song was Rollin'. And I was already listening to some hip hop and some bits of rock. I think I might have been listening to a bit of Offspring and some Bon Jovi and just random bits and bobs here and there, like everyone is before they really kind of just discover their musical identity. And yeah, I heard this song Rollin' by Limp Bizkit, and I just thought, what the hell is that? These massive, heavy riffs alongside this weird kind of yelpy rapping. I thought it was amazing. I went out and got chocolate starfish and hot dog flavoured water, fell in love with it, and then from then on in, I just became obsessed with it. And very soon I was going and picking up magazines that were covering all these kind of bands, and the one that really caught my eye the most was Metal Hammer. And I remember the first issue I ever bought, it had Ozzy Osbourne on the cover, shot against this kind of chapel-esque background, and it came with a 3 VHS tape, which is a thing back then, 3 VHS tapes, which I'm showing my age on now. And that had bands I was into, like Linkin Park and Spineshank were on it. It also had other artists like Ozzy, and I remember Cradle of Filth were on there, AFI were on there, and it just opened me up to a whole new world of music that I didn't even know existed. And as soon as I was done reading my first issue of Metal Hammer, I just thought, I don't know what I have to do to work for this place. I don't know how I get there, but this is what I want to do. I want to work for this magazine somehow. Anything I can do that gets my name in this mag is what I want to do in my life. Being an editor on a magazine basically means you're kind of the helicopter viewpoint, kind of circling above everything as the process goes along each month. So I'll kind of chair the meetings at the start of every issue planning point, kind of listen to what the team are putting together and the ideas they're bringing to the table with this for each issue, along with my ideas for kind of cover opportunities and wider reaching features that I'd like to see go in there. And beyond that, it's also just kind of having an eye on the brand itself and where Metal Hammer is heading, what our identity is, the audience we want to be appealing to, what we're doing around the magazine with like special tours and the Golden God Awards and the podcast and the website and all the other kind of sub-brands we have involved under the Metal Hammer umbrella. I see everything that goes in the magazine. I kind of give the final say on all the pieces that come through and just proofread things at the end of the cycle. There's very rarely any changes that need to be done because we've got an amazing team here. So it's just being over everything that has the name Metal Hammer on it, whether it's magazine, internet, like I said, awards, gigs, tours, everything we could possibly do kind of ultimately comes under my jurisdiction, I guess, which is quite scary now that I've said that out loud. Well, the first rule of putting stuff into Metal Hammer is it good? Generally speaking. I'm not saying I'd stand by every single band we've ever covered over the years. But more importantly than that, I mean, it's more about whether it speaks to metal fans or not. No one person in the office or that writes for the magazine or that has ever read the magazine will say they like every single band that goes into Metal Hammer, because presumably, unless you're an absolute fanatic with no filter, you don't like every single thing that comes under the banner of metal. So it's not necessarily just about our personal taste, it's about recognising what the scene is excited about, what is an interesting story to tell, whether it's a new band we're all really stoked on and we want people to know about, whether it's a big important band that has something new to say that we feel needs addressing, or whether it's just a unique story that we don't feel like anyone is telling, which is why in every single issue you'll find everything from arena headlining mega weights like Judas Priest and Sabbath and Maiden and Metallica, to kind of more modern bands, to brand new bands, to bands around the world. In our recent issue we've just been working on, we go out to Afghanistan to talk to a band called District Unknown who have had an amazing story there. And that's not necessarily something that will like sell extra issues on its own merit, but it's something that I think people will be interested to know about. So as long as it's interesting, and there's a justification for presenting it to metal fans as something that's part of our world, then you can rely on it being a Metal Hammer and we'll always do it justice. The uniqueness of what being on a magazine in 2018 means that as well as adapting to the world around you, and like I said, we have the website, we have the podcast, which we brought back recently to good success. As well as doing all that, you also have to kind of even more so appreciate what a magazine can offer that other things can't so much. So while we're kind of branching out on one end in new media with all the things we're doing, we're also going that extra mile to make sure that the magazine itself is a real like collector's item, because people do still appreciate physical product in this day and age. You see it with like how bands are successfully using vinyl to shift and you know, merchandise and things like that. While there's a lot of information out there, magazines offer a level of curation, and it offers a nice physical package which you can appreciate and hold in your hands, and it still speaks to something, I think, especially in metal fans who do appreciate physical and they do appreciate merchandise. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not really something that I think about in terms of, oh, is Metal Hammer going to break this band? Because I don't think one platform or one outlet doesn't have the power to break a band by themselves. That's not how it works. You might be the first on it, which sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. You might be the biggest platform it comes from, you know, like when Bring Me the Horizon or someone end up on BBC Radio 1 and everyone's going, oh my God, we got a heavy band on mainstream radio, this is crazy. But it's all a process. You know, you don't need every single person in a certain industry to like something or to get behind it, but there has to be a certain feeling around the scene that this is a band that's going somewhere. So you look at a band like Code Orange is probably the best example of a band in our scene at the moment. They went from a band that were quite well spoken about in hardcore circles and we've released some solid material so far. Then they released a brilliant album, which every single outlet in the game was pretty much high on. We were excited about them. We covered them. And since then, they've also gone on to be Grammy nominated. And I'm sure on the next album, they'll be getting those BBC playlists and everything that kind of comes along in the process. And I know that Hammer will have played our part in that, but it's not so important to me if Hammer's the first or the biggest to do that. It's about being part of a process that takes brilliant bands and puts them onto as big a platform as possible. Because if I hear a great band, I want everyone to hear about it. I don't just want it to stay underground and be the elitist guy. I want to shout about it from the rooftops. And I think that's what a big part of what, if you're in this game, you should be doing, because we want these bands to be able to not just survive, but prosper. To be honest, the people that say that rock is dead, or that say, you know, there's no new rock stars, or there's, you know, nothing of interest going on in rock music for them at the moment, they're either not a rock fan to start with, or they just don't care about rock music as it is in 2018. I think there's certainly a challenge on rock music in terms of, you know, rising up festival bills and filling arenas and selling lots of records. You know, a lot of that kind of era of the scene is probably behind us now. I don't think we will see another Metallica. I don't think we'll see another Maiden because the game's changed. It's just not the way it is. But I still think we'll see bands fit to headline arenas and festivals. You see the likes of Slipknot and Avenged Sevenfold and Bring Me the Horizon and countless others that have shot up the ranks in recent years. So I don't think that's a real issue. And in terms of just the actual health of rock music, it really is as good as it's ever been. And I'm not saying that because it's my job to say it. The reason I'm still here doing this is because I'm excited by metal and I'm excited by rock music, what rock music has to offer. So even if you look at where rock music is at right now in 2018, right from legends like Judas Priest and Saxon releasing absolutely killer albums, down to the kind of next generation of bands like Conjurer, Venom Prison, Employed to Serve, Code Orange, Turnstile. There's an amazing generation of brilliant young heavy bands doing incredible things around the scene right now. And I think if you don't recognise that, that's fair enough. You're not, no one's making you like where rock music is at in 2018. But at the same time, to say it's dead or it's not offering anything new is ridiculous. You're just not paying attention. I think people wanting to make their way into the industry, first of all, you need a fairly clear idea of why you want to do it, because otherwise, if your idea is just I want to work in the music industry, then that's a bit too vague, and you probably need a better idea of what you're good at and what you kind of want to get out of it first before you just desperately try and intern at every single outlet you can possibly find. So have an idea of what you're after, recognise your skills, And in the case of music journalism specifically, I think you're going to have to be prepared to put in a lot of hard work. You know, whereas a lot of my friends kind of went straight from university into kind of obvious career paths and progressions and entry-level things. You know, I was scrubbing pots in a restaurant, which I didn't mind doing at all because it was like, you know, good, simple, hard work. But I was doing that to be able to kind of take interviews that were offered up last minute and have flexible hours and all that kind of thing. And just kind of be confident in yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Reach out to people that you think could offer you some advice or help kind of shape your work and what you want to do. And just try and stay as true to yourself as you possibly can, because there's a lot of bullshit in the music industry. And that's something that should never really seep into our side of the game, because if nothing else, we're supposed to all be here because we love doing it. So just try and stay passionate and keep your eye on what you want to do, and yeah, worship Satan.